Hashtag misos based. Somebody's liable to two deaths in based in. Yidam Chamura. Avar Aveir gets more severe. Avar Aveir Shish Poshtei Misos, if the two have two misos involved, Yidam Chamura gets the more severe one. Rabbi Yossi Yidam Bezika Rishon Shabos Alav, he doesn't get the most severe, he gets the first one which he came liable to. Okay, and we're going to give examples. Mishalaka Vishana is somebody who committed an Aveir for Chachai Malchus and he did it over again. So based on Koitzimos, so keep a base in, here it sounds like the second time, Parshas is the third time, like Moshe brings down, but the Yerushalmi doesn't discuss the case at all. So basically, they put him into a pit, Malchinos Osorim, and they give him barley, achakris, and ivkas until his stomach bursts. Already this on a Fashur Shloba Edim, somebody who kills without any witnesses present. Also, you put him into this dome. You give him bread and water, and so then gradually his stomach will burst. Okay. Afterwards, they give him the barley. So the ratio and the Sefer complement each other. First, give him constrict the stomach, then you give him lots to eat, and the stomach will burst. Talmud Tznina, we learned over there in Bavel. Okay, it's the Shaita so changes to Minon. But it means the same thing. It means above, and they said, you get the first relationship, so to speak, the first death penalty which befalls you. Ketzad, how so? If you had relations with a woman who was initially a mother-in-law, and now she's an Eishes Ish to boot. So obviously the first penalty here is that a mother-in-law, raised with B'sreifa. So you get burnt for that. That's a case where it's the more severe one. But even Eishes Ish, first she was a mother, Eishes Ish. And later she came your mother-in-law, then you get Chanikah, you get the lighter penalty, which is Eishes Ish, because that was the first prohibition which you faced vis-a-vis her. Even though it's the later one does not come and take over it. Baal Chamoso, if he had relations with his mother-in-law, V'heidolah, and she is now Chamoso V'kaloso. She is now both his mother-in-law and his daughter-in-law. Now, as I work, this is a case where your son married your mother-in-law. Okay, she was already your mother-in-law. Your son, who was probably a son by a different wife, married your mother-in-law, and then you have relations with this woman. Okay, so now the question here is actually, although the Gemara is very cryptic about it, the Shara Tissot explains the question. The question is now, albeit Rabbi Yochanan normally holds, Rabbi Yossi normally holds to go by the first misa which devolved. And here the first misa which devolved was that for mother-in-law, which is Sreifa. But now, simultaneously, she became your daughter-in-law and an Eishes Ish. Because obviously before she was an unencumbered mother-in-law, she was divorced or widowed. And now she became an Eishes Ish simultaneously with becoming also your daughter-in-law. And her daughter-in-law, the penalty is more severe, it's skila. So the question is, even though Rabbi Yossi normally holds you don't give him the second penalty, whatever the first penalty was, sticks, and the second one doesn't fall on, but maybe this is like an Isser Moisif, because here she became at the same time an Eishes Ish and a Kaloso, so maybe here that's like a Pesach for the second, for the penalty of skila to get involved. The Gemara is not going to answer this. The Shai Tissot takes out the next three lines, which actually are the replication at the beginning of the parak, Daf Mem Daled, so really shouldn't be here. Chamosa v'kaloso. So to skipping 3 lines down. Chamosa v'kaloso ka'achas. What if a similar case, but not quite the same thing, actually, it's different in that, it's 2 different questions, the more we'll explain momentarily. A woman became your mother-in-law and your daughter-in-law simultaneously. How did that happen? So it's not, the case is that he and his son made made shluchim to be mekadshim 2 women. And these 2 women were, Dina, let's say, and Leah, her mother. Okay, only the father married Dina and the son married Leah. So therefore, now the son's Leah who's married to the son is in essence both the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law of the father, because it's his wife's mother and it's his son's wife's mother. It's his son's wife, and this happened in Bas Achas. Because there was a one shliach who was mekadesh both of them, and they had one shliach also who accepted kiddushin for them. So the question is, what Rabbi Yossi holds that you don't give the more severe penalty when it comes subsequent to the less severe penalty. What happens over here where it's simultaneous? Do we give the less severe penalty or we give the more severe penalty? So the first question was like an Isser Mosif question, and this is a Bas Achas question. Okay? That's the more, and the more reiterates that. Mama Chamos Chaloso Kachas Mama Rabbi Yossi, and the Chomer. So the Shayat actually Ephraim changes the next line. Instead of Chomer Kal, it says Chomer Bekoilo. I called it Isser Moisi before. It's really Isser Koilo. Ma'am Rabbi Yossi, Isser, which is more inclusive. Was Rabbi Yossi say there's a work even subsequently, which becomes the Eishes Ish and a daughter-in-law subsequent to becoming your mother-in-law. Shneitzim Ka'achas, and the second question is when it happens to Vasachas. Also, Ma Omar Rabbi Yossi, what did Rabbi Yossi say? These are two questions. Armin, they said, Kamati Shtalos Rabbi Yossi, just like we asked the question called Rabbi Yossi, Kach Shtalos Rabbi Shmuel, can ask the same question called Rabbi Shmuel. The Taishem Rabbi Shmuel, the said name Rabbi Shmuel, this is in the Bavli as well. These Almalov and these Garsha, a woman became first an Amana, then she became a divorcee. This Chala, then she had relations with somebody who made her a Cholo. Then she was Mizaneh. And now Chakach Bala, and then a Kohen had relations with her. After she became everything which is forbidden this week's parsha, right? She went through the whole gamut. So the Pnei Moshe here and everybody changes the gears. Instead of saying Eno Chayav al Achas, it should be Chayav al Kol Achas Ba'achas. He's like because each and every one, as the Pnei Moshe explains, is an Isser Moisef or Isser Koil on the previous one. Each one is more inclusive. Okay. Grusha is more inclusive than Amana because the Asr is to Kohen Hedios, plus Amana is only Kohen Goro. The Nischal law makes her also to Truma. Zina is because the Shem's Nus applies even by a Yisraelis who's Mizana, albeit that Nus is Nus as an HSC, so this is Nus even with a puzzle. But name at the Shem's Nus is more extensive, so therefore, in that case, he gets Malchus in each and every lab. Zinas v'nischal, however, if she did in reverse order. First she was out, then she was in schal, and then she was divorced, and then she became a widow. It should be here achas. So one iser. Why? Because in this case, lemaisa, each one is not an iser koil. It's reversed. It's diminishing isurim. Now in this amal of garsha kachas, according to Rabbi Shmuel and according to the Gilyon Ephraim. According to most unfortunately, this question is a conventional question, a similar question to what he asked before Rabbi Yossi. What if she became a widow and divorcee simultaneously? The problem is, as the Gilyon Ephraim says, in Moshe's case, it's even more difficult. But the Gilyon Ephraim's case, making a woman Almana Grusha at the same time is very difficult. It's talking about a case, like one guy married her partially, another guy married her partially. They both died at the same. What? When the divorced one died, but it's very difficult. So therefore, the Shara Yisrael just changes the girsa. He says that it should be according to Rabbi Shmuel, who asked the same question you asked before. Eishesish v'nasis chamoso ma omar bo Rabbi Shmuel. What does Rabbi Shmuel say? The second said before, a woman who's an Eishesish, his name she became her mother-in-law. So what happens over there? Okay, and then he puts in afterwards, zinas v'nischala ka'achas, if she was mezaneh with a man, and that made her chol at the same time, such as where a Kohen Chol had relations with his sister, and that's nus, and at the same time chalolus. What about that case? So he will learn that he tries to make the cases parallel to the previous cases in Rabbi Yossi, which makes sense, as we'll see in the next line. There should be two questions similar to Rabbi Yossi. What about an Isser Koilo, and the other about an Isser Basachas? So as the Gemara says, turning the page, Mama Rabbi Shmuel, Choymer Bekoilo, right? The same thing we said before. We're adding on a Koilo, right? Mama Rabbi Shmuel, what does Rabbi Shmuel say? And that's again according to Shai Teretzol's Girsa, that she was Nashis, and then she became Chamoisoi, right? What does Rabbi Shmuel hold about that? And then Shnei Yisurim Ka'achas, if you do two Yisurim simultaneously, in this Chala and Zinsa together, Ma'arisha, what does Rabbi Shmuel say? Lamai said there's no answer. Rabbi Yitzchak Amar, Yochol Lekabel Asra, I skip. Rav Amar, this is actually going back on their Mishnah. 1 second. Hello? Going back to our Mishnah. Rava Marbim Fanim Eidovim Masi. So this story about a case where somebody kills our Eidim. How do you know he killed then? Right? Manav Shach. If they're Eidim, you know he killed. If they're no Eidim, you don't know he killed. So how are you going to put him into the kippah? So it says, Fanim Eidov, it means that the Eidim are standing in different directions. Or as the Korban Moshe puts it, in different corners. And it seems it's also the Bible. It's called what's called Eidus Miyuchedes. The Eidim didn't see each other. And therefore, they can't be counted together in order to testify as a kat. Another place where weren't able to give him Masra ahead of time. So therefore, we're not able to give him Masra ahead of time. So therefore, in that case, we know he killed B'mezid, so we put him in the kippah. Okay? It's like Shimon Shetach's famous case where he saw somebody running into a house, and the knife was dripping with blood, so a snake came and killed him. So here we do it in the kippah. Okay, Agonev is the katzvah. Somebody who steals a keli in the Beis HaMikdash. V'amakal, because of somebody who curses HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but not with the Shem Hashem, which is the chiv of Megadif in Torah, rather he curses HaKadosh Baruch Hu through magic, with magic. V'abol Ramis some relations with a shiksa, kanoim poking bo, just zealous people come immediately. Kohen Shishimesh Betumba, a Kohen who served Tommy the Beis HaMikdash, Eino Chav HaKohen Bevinos so Beis, then they'll bring it to court. Rather the young guns of the kuna, they take him outside the Azorim, and they break open his head with blocks of wood. It's a capital crime. They say no, God kills him, we don't have any jurisdiction over him. Kasva is a kista. It's a certain type of killing based on Mikdash. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kli Mishal Beis HaMikdash, it seems that he's not arguing, he's just giving the expanded definition. Like it says, with some of the tools used for libations in the Beis HaMikdash. Hamakal Kesel Kol Ilin Naftoi, a certain nation called the Naftoi, the Mekalin, they curse in the following fashion, L'kanyach Kainach Kanavach. And this is some sort of incantation which has to do with that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should Chas v'Shalom be cursed through this Avodah Zarah. Okay, it's
version is
yeah. Okay. So Abayla Aramis, somebody who has relations with a shiksa. Tanya Mishmal Zeshu Nose Nachris, a person who marries a shiksa, Moila Bonim, and has children. Ma'amid Oivim Men L'Mokum, they'll turn into anti-Semites. They'll be anti-Jewish. Ksiv. Now, here's a very interesting one, actually. You know, the Ishbitzer, I didn't actually look at it this evening, but the Ishbitzer is famous for having a only lukewarm endorsement of Pinchas. But he's kind of on Zimri's side. It's one of his infamous passages. You see here, actually, that the Yerushalmi really can serve as a basis of that. It says here, Ksiv Vayar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas, son of Elazar, son of Aaron HaKohen, saw Magor. What do you see? He saw the Maisa of Israel, and remember the Halacha. HaBoyel Aramis Kanoim Pogim also translation Shiksa, the Kanoim, they go and they smite him. So, Tani, we learned Shalom Barotzon Chachomim. It was without Chachomim's consent. Okay, it's not like the Medrash says that he asked Moshe Rabbeinu beforehand, right? Says the Gemara, Pinchas Shalom Barotzon Chachomim. Is that true? Yeah. They would have put him in the Chayrim. Unless the Ruach HaKodesh had jumped up Rama and said, okay? Very interesting. Really, it's much more ambiguous. No, not an endorsement of Pinchas at all, really, this Yerushalmi. Okay? Now, came back to our Mishnah. The Machlokes said in the Mishnah whether a Zosh Hashem Mikdash is Chayim Misa or B'dei Shemayim Misa B'dei Adam. My time it should be the Rabbanan. What's the logic of Rabbanan or Chachamim? Nemar Khan, most it says here that a person who serves in the Beis HaMikdash should die. The Nemar La'alon, it says Kol Kareva Mishkan Hashem Yomus. Anybody who comes close to the Mishkan of Hashem will die. Okay? Which sounds like then there it's B'dei Shemayim. But so here too, we assume that the Yumas is B'dei Shamayim. Okay? My time in the Rabbi Akiva, what about Rabbi Akiva? Nemar Kamos Yumas, it says here they die. The Nemar it says, Vazor Krev Yumas. Okay? Vazor Krev Yumas means he's put to death for coming close to the Beis HaMikdash. I forget where that pasuk is going on. I think it's I don't know, it says, Azar Grape you must, I guess, is somebody who goes into the Kodesh, because it's talking about somebody who goes me based la parochas. So I guess there's a death penalty on that. There's something to that effect. So Azar Grape you must, Mutav Shilmad you must, mi you must, Vayamad you must, mi yamus. And he'd rather learn you must from you must, rather than you must from yamus, which is the previous one, is that was Misa B'dei Shemayim. This somehow we know, I don't know exactly how it's Misa B'dei Adam, so he learns from this one and not for the other one. Okay. Says more further, says the Mishnah, all Israel has a portion of the world to come. Who doesn't? Somebody says no tchias hamesim in the Torah. Torah is not from the heavens, but Bikoiris. What's all these things will be explained in the Gemara. Somebody reads the external books. Somebody who whispers incantations on a sukkim, actually it should be, on a wound. It says he says that on a wound. Somebody pronounces the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Yud Kei Vav Kei explicitly. Hosif Aleim, all these things the Gemara is going to discuss. Hosif Aleim, they added to these, Haporek, somebody who shucks the yoke of heaven. Va'mefer Bris, somebody who denigrates the covenant. Va'megal upon him Torah, somebody who makes, who's brazen against the Torah. But they have no portion of the world to come. Who are those people? Haporek, somebody who takes off the yoke. Shu Oimer, who says, Yesh Torah, there is a Torah of any soifna, but I don't give it any chashivas. I don't afford any significance. Or another version in the Pnei Moshe is that I don't intend to tolerate it. Even though it's a Torah, I'm not going to keep it. Hamefer Bris, Zeshu Moshe Chorla, somebody who makes himself an orla even after it's been cut off. Amgal upon him Torah, Zeshu, somebody who says, Lonita Termin Shemayim, the Torah is not given from the heavens. Says the more, Tani Veloko, sorry, that's the more. Somebody says Torah didn't come from the heavens, so why do you have to have another time repeating Megal Panim B'Torah? So Tani Rabbi Chanina and the son who say Rabbi Chanina, the humble one, said Kun Raimon for Raimon is Eshu Evel Divi Torah Farasi. Megal Panim Torah is somebody who brazenly transgresses Torah in public. Kon Yoyakim ben Yoshia Melech Yehuda, such as King Yoyakim v'Chaverov and his buddies. Now, the next portion we're going to cut and paste down below. So let's skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Okay, where it says Rubos Schuyos. The person mostly Schuyos, Miut Averos, and minority Averos, the Ephraim Mimenu. Miut Averos Kalashish Biodo, we take from him the small amount of Averos which he has in his hands. But we take a Egyptian world to this world. Because the Shalom, in order to give him complete reward, lost he love in the world to come. Ruba Averis, a person on the other hand, has mostly Averis, Mutas, Chlis, and only a minority of merits. Nois of Schar Mitzvos, Kol, Sheish, Boyodo, Olam Ha'azeh, we give him the light amount of Schar, which he has in this world, in order to fully take retribution for him in the world to come. Lost he love him. Now, here the Karmei throws in, and it's based on the parallel Gemara and Peah. Avla porikol v'amefer bris, somebody who's porikol and tries to remove his bris milah, v'amgal poyim v'torah, his brains against the Torah. Avol pishiesh b'yodam ma'asim tovim, even though he's got good deeds, the Ephraim and Olam Hazeh, they take retribution in this world, but Keren Kem Olam Haba, and he has retribution also in the world to come. So the most severe Averos, they transcend the limits of the world, so you get punished for them no matter when. Now let's go back to what we skipped before. Avodah Zara, Akum, Begilia Arayas, and I assume Shvil's done as well, though it's not mentioned here. Rabbi Yen, Rabbi Yossi, Chadam, Rabbi Kaus, one said it's one of the lighter form of Averos, and therefore you can punish it either Olam Hazeh or Olam Haba, but not both. The Chadam, on the other said Chamuros, it's one of the severe Averos. Therefore, just like the Porek, Ol, etc., you are punished in this world and the world to come. Says Marmanik, wait, if the guy raided tshuva, nothing stands before Bali tshuva. Elokenu came when they talk about also Chalo Su Tshuva. They didn't do Tshuva, may speak Kares, and they died in the state of Kares. So then, do we have the question, do they actually receive comeuppance in this world, or is everything in the world to come, etc., etc.? Okay? So as Marvaita, where we got up to before, Ruba Schli is a person mostly merits, Yorish Gan Eden. He acquires Gan Eden. Ruaver supposes mostly demerits, then Yorish Gan he acquires Gehenna. If he's in balance, or no say a bonus in what? In balance. 50-50, yeah. Like Me'uzan in Hebrew. No say a bonus in Ksiv Khan. It doesn't say Hashem bears sins, Elanosi of, and he bears a sin. Kodesh Baruch Hu chaytiv shtar echo min averos. Kodesh Baruch Hu takes one of the documents on the side which contains averos, ve'as chuyos makrios, and the merits trump.
I don't remember that question. That's interesting.
The what?
No say Avono?
I don't know if it said, I'm not sure. I think it is. I think it is elsewhere. Okay? Because I think I've seen it before today. You have kindness. You pay each person like his deed. Not literally his deeds, because they might be 50-50. Like his deeds means they make you tilted l'schus. If he doesn't have, you give him the schus from your own stockpile. He died to Rabbi Lezer. Then that's what Rabbi Lezer said. Rabbi Lezer says, Rav Chesed, Mate Klapi Chesed. He's very bountiful in his mercy. He inclines towards mercy. Rabbi or kindness. Rabbi Shmuel Yitzabah. Rabbi Shmuel Yitzabah has a question. Tzedakah Tatzer Tam. I got a question on a Kodesh Baruch Hu's biases here. It says tzedakah will preserve a tam derech person's innocent ways. Varisha Tesav Chatos. Evil will distort sinners or sins. Similarly, it says that the sinners will be pursued by their evil. But the tzaddikim will pay back good. Similarly, it says even relates to scoffers who yoli Hashem will scoff. To modest ones, Chen will give grace. Similarly, it says that the walkings of his chasidim he will preserve. Yerushalmi will be silent in the dark. They will inherit the honor of Chachamim. That's the good guys. The fools who lift up in degradation. Says Gemara, after quoting all this Sukkim, V'sigon Saigo, those are fenced in, we fence some more. V'tri and Taran, those are open, their gates are open, we open some more. It sounds like the tzaddikim get extra shmira, and the Rishonim get extra temptation. So that's not fair, right? That's stacking the deck, right? So says the Gemara, Vikini, is it indeed like that? I'm sorry, the way the Pnei Moshe is Vikini, yeah, it's taka like that. Saigo, the Tarin Trio, it's taka like that. You had a problem that's favoritism and discrimination. Elakini, this is rather the way it is. Rabbi Yitzchak said, person watches himself and preserves himself from sinning 1, 2, 3 times. There I need a Kodesh Baruch Hu watches him. My time, why? What passage says, Henkel Yifal Kel Pamim Shloshim Geber. Hashem will act with the person 3 times, but after the 3rd time, Hashem protects him. Okay? As long as he doesn't go back. In other words, it's not foolproof. My time, what passage says that? It says, Vachutam Shulish, the 3-fold string. Lo bimeri not take will not. Lo mi not take. And Ksiv does say it will never break. And lo bimeri not take. It won't break quickly. But in Itrachto Lord, if you apply pressure, you're going to go to McDonald's, then it'll break. Humafsik. Ravuna Ravuna said, Abishem Ravuna Ravavo Akash Baruch Ravuna Shichok Kivyachol. Hashem actually Akash Baruch Ravuna Shichok. Hashem doesn't forget anything. Kivyachol, so to speak, Abishul Yisrael for the Jews, not so shakon, he becomes a forgetful. My time, what Pasuk teaches this, no se'avon. It says no se'avon. So no succeed. It's in the past tense written. So it means the Kodesh Baruch Hu forgets the Averos. Okay, David Omer, and so too David says, Nasas avona mechel, you bore the sin of your people. Chisisa kol chatosim, you covered all their sins. Selah forever. Okay. Shora Masim Nechoresh, a very famous Gemara. Ramaz Nechoresh asked us Rabbi Elazar ben Azari b'yeshiva. He asked them in the yeshiva together. Amalo, he said, Shamata Arba Chilukei Kapara. Rabbi Shmuel Derish, did you hear the three gradations of Kapara? Rabbi Shmuel said, Amalo, he said, I heard them, but they're only Shloshahim Chutzin HaTshuva. The three gradations besides Tshuva, which is necessary in every level. Kasav Echra, one pasuk says, Shu Barim Shov V'Yem Parim Shuvah Seichem. Return, wayward children, I'll be healed from your coming back. The cause of Echad, another pasuk says, Ki Bayem Ezei Chaper Leichem L'Taraschem Gomer. It's another pasuk says, it's not just enough to do tshuva, you need that day of Kapor of Yom Kippur. The cause of Echad, the other says, Upakadati B'Shevet Pishom. I'm going to visit upon them with the rod their sins of the Goyim Avonam, and with afflictions their Averos. Because of Echorim, and the other pasuk says, it's not Yisurim, not good enough, you need death. So Kate said, how does it work? However, it says, somebody just transgresses a positive command, Shav, and he does tshuva miyad immediately. Eno says the Koma doesn't leave the place, even where he did the Avera. Hashem turns around and forgives him. Concerning him, it says, Shuva barim shovim, ever shuva sechem, all you have to do is tshuva. However, it says lo saseh. If somebody ranges transgress a lo saseh, hatshuva toila tshuva leaves him dangling. V'yom kippur mechaper, he needs Yom Kippur in order to complete the process. For all of them, concerning him, it says ki v'yom ezei chaper aleichem. On this day, it'll atone for him. However, al krisus misas basin b'meisid. If somebody transgresses or something for which you chayav koretz or misas basin intentionally, hatshuva yom kippur mechaper mechza. There's still not enough tshuva in Yom Kippur. Rather, yisurin mechaper mechza, you need yisurim afflictions, and mechaper the other half. Although I'm concerned that it says, upakadati b'shevet b'shach, going to visit upon them their rods. So that's the three chilukei kapara. Asay, los asay, and the third one is krisus and misas based. However, avol mishischalo bo shem shamayim. Somebody was a mechal shem shamayim and koch b'tshuva litlos. Tshuva doesn't leave him dangling sufficiently. V'lo yom kippurim l'chaper sufficiently. V'lo yisur l'mayach, not the yisurim complete it. Elo tshuva yom kippurim l'chaperin. Tshuva yom kippur do a shlish, a third. Yisurin shlish and yisurin another third. Umisa mimarek shlish, and death completes the other third. But love of all my concerning this person, it says, or if the sin will be atoned for you until you die, from this we deduce, that dying completes the process. Okay? Period. Rabbi Yochanan said, Zudivrei Rabbi Elazar ben Azari, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva. This is all that they're saying, that Yom Kippur is mechaper, etc. But according to Chachamim, Soyer Mishtalech mechaper, the goat, the rat goat which is kicked off the cliff, pushed off the cliff, he's mechaper. Now, the Pnei Moshe will find both throw in here, and makes it easier to understand the rest of the game. Ain't Soyer, if there is no goat, Ituma Shayom mechaper, the very essence of the day is mechaper. Okay? Hayom mechaper. So, how does the day atone? Going to the gears of the Pnei Moshe Gilin Ephraim. How does the day atone? Going back to more Rabbi Zirmar, Koshu, each moment atones, and no, it's not one lump sum atonement at the end of the day. Each moment of the day has a little bit of atonement wrapped into it. Okay? So, that's good. So Rabbi Chida says actually it's the end of the day of Yom Kippur when the kapor occurs. It's not in the middle of the day, but rather at the end of the day. What's the difference between the two positions? Meis miyat, if the soil azazel dies immediately, or if the person dies immediately. Actually, sorry. I'll die to Rabbi Zira Kvar, keep it going. Rabbi Zira ready to achieve some atonement because Yom Kippur is mechaper gradually over the course of its ensuing day. Because you have to be alive at the end in order to achieve any kapara. This is me?
I'm just muttering, thinking about that. So you have to be alive. The kapara comes at the last moment.
Yeah. Yom Kippur is a kapara for Chaim, not for Mason. Yeah. Okay. Says Amara. Where am I now? Only the Pnei Moshe and the Gilad Ephraim changed the Girsa. Amra, it should be say Amra Rabbi Zeira Masisim Sai Rabbi Chanina. The following vices like Rabbi Chanina says it all happens at the end of the day. Chomer b'soyer, there's a severity. This is the quote from the Brisa. Chomer b'soyer, Masha Ein Kein b'Yom Kippur. The severity by the goat which doesn't blood Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, Masha Kein b'soyer, and by Yom Kippur that which is not applied to the goat. Yom Kippur mechaper below soyer. Yom Kippur tells about the goat. The soyer mechaper below Yom Kippur. The goat is not atoned besides it, if not for Yom Kippur, right? Now that's not the part that interests us so much. The part that interests us the next part more, right? Chomer b'soyer. So the goat is more severe in that mechaper miyad. It works immediately. Yom Kippur and mishatech Yom Kippur only when it becomes dark. Oh, it becomes dark. Motzei Yom Kippur. Who's that a raya to? Who else after dark? Right, Sofa Yom. So that would be Rabbi Chanina. So it's a right here that the Sofa Yom is mechaper. Okay. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Huna says he taps his Kum Rabbi Yirmiyah. He gave another shot. He says, I asked a question for Rabbi Yirmiyah. Varmei said, Tipoter shadaita lavi sarachav lo yiviu. Maybe normally the middle of the day is mechaper a little bit. That was talking about a case where they had in mind to bring another goat and they hadn't brought it yet. So Kosh Baruch was waiting to see if they bring the goat before his mechaper. But in Echanami, normally the kapara can be achieved any time during the course of the day. You don't need to have after the korban being sacrificed. So says the Gemara, I understand. Rabbi Yossi, Kosh Baruch Rois and know the mechaper miyad. Why does the Kosh Baruch have to wait? You know, we can see what happens immediately. So this is not. The Gemara doesn't answer. It's not such a strong kasha. You know, this is. It's not. It's not that Kosh Baruch Hu is in a rush. He just wait till it actually happens. You know, just because Israel's no, it doesn't mean he has to act on it immediately. But the korban shiur korban has an interesting question on Rabbi Yossi. He says that maybe Rabbi Yossi asked a question. Yossi had the question that Kosh Baruch Hu was now be a chaper miyad, right? But maybe says the shiur korban. Maybe the reason Kosh Baruch Hu is not mechaper miyad is because he wants to, in fact, to see what they do based on their bechira. Oh, it's interesting. He wants to say that it sounds almost like the bechira Kosh Baruch Hu is not aware of. So therefore, even though he knows it's going to happen, he wants to see how they exercise their bechira in gathering the wood and doing whatever they have to do. You know, in their well, actually, it's there's no wood, but in gathering the material to do the next part of the korban. But it's basically what I'm trying to say. Sufum tzara abra. But it could be that kapara is taket. Kapara is throughout the course of the day. So that's the case. Why was they? Lost my train of thought. Bryce says Yom Kippur is only mechaper once it becomes dark, right? It's like Rabbi Chanina. So Rav Huna wanted to say perhaps it's only because they had in mind to bring a soyer. So Rav Yossi said you used that in mind to bring a soyer. That in itself should allow Yom Kippur to be mechaper early. But so that the Rav Yossi says no, perhaps it won't be mechaper early because they're waiting to see how the results of this test. All right. In any event, Mora doesn't answer. Mora doesn't give a clear-cut indication of when the kapara Yom Kippur occurs, whether it's in the middle or the end of the day. We go on. Ksiv, it says Kidvar Hashem Bozor. It says if you made a mockery of the word of God, then you lose your portion of the word of God. He kares. Only though it's true you degrade Divrei Torah. If you keep a mikra, I know it's even one pasuk in the Chumash, one Aramaic statement in the Chumash, the Kav Chomer. And even Kav Chomer, if you degrade the concept or a certain Kav Chomer, I know that it's mitzvah sovefer if you make a denigration of any mitzvah. Now let's give some examples. The mikra, one pasuk says, "V'achos Loton Timna." The sister of Lotan was Timna. The Targum Echad, so that's Mikra Echad. That's the pasuk you make fun of. Why is the pasuk have to tell us who Lotan's sister was? And there's old Drush and Rashi here. Why the pasuk Dev tells us the Targum Echad. So he makes fun of Targum. It's Vayikol Lovan Yikar Sadusa. Why they have to put into the Chumash? Why that Lavan called the monument Yikar Sadusa, which Yaakov called Galei? The Kav Chomer Echad, so he makes fun of Kav Chomer. It's not Kav Chomer made by Chomer. Kav Chomer, which is implicit in the Chumash, or actually the Chumash, where it says, Ki Shivasayim Yukom Kain, V'lemech Shirim Shiva, if Kain was granted 7 generations, so Lemech will be granted 77 generations. So somebody who makes fun of the Kav Chomer has a problem. Is somebody makes fun of the Kav Chomer? Yeah, somebody makes fun of the Kav Chomer has a problem. Whereas the Torah obviously was trying to teach us somebody that somebody who denies that, he's one of these bad guys. Okay? Says the Torah, another interpretation. What's that degrade the word of God? Somebody mentions the Torah in an abominable place which is disgusting. And you see when Rabbi Ilan for the friends were sitting in front of a hotel, and the Rav in the evening, and they couldn't see what was in front of them, but they knew there was some excrement there or something. I mean, they said, Mao Dahava Dilu Mao Meimar Mil Daraisa. Can we talk Torah? Because you can't see the Makom Tunav. Armin, they said, no, became Dilu Hava Yayamama. Since it would have been light, Havana Chamei, Makumel, we would say that which is in front of us, Baram Kadanusa, so then now you can't read the Torah, even though it's night and we can't see it. It's an interesting thing because there are all sorts of shilas, a person's place where people are not dressed properly, where the person can learn just by closing his eyes, where that's not sufficient because if he would open his eyes, he could see what's there, because the Rav Mishnah Tzmash has to be that the thing which prevents you from learning is physically removed, not just that you bar yourself from seeing it like by nighttime or something like that. Okay. Says the Gemara, Bar Kapora, Amar Bar Kapora says, I'm going to skip the line. No. Okay. Bar Kapora, Amar Achaz v'chol Mach Yisrael Rishayim, Achaz and all the evil kings of Israel, and then they have no portion world to come. My time of why? Kol Machei Naflu, all of their kings fell, none of them called on me. But seemingly they asked, if I was enumerated in the same platter, meaning on the same high stature as kings. It says in the days of Uzziah, so Achaz is mentioned there, even though he was a Rasha. Armon said, Bosha's party. He got embarrassed easily. He wasn't brazen by Yisrael or Navi. How so? Ma Bosha Sayolo, what do you do? Rabbi Yaakov Shemlezer, Rabbi Yosef Shemlezer Levi said, At Moed say you find Bishor Navi, but the Kachako and Navi came to prosecute him. To go to a place which is tummy, either a place where the laundry was, either because the laundry itself, the vats of laundry are disgusting, so the Navi won't get his nevuah there. Or it could be because the women who are doing the laundry, they're undressed, right? Because they're standing in the water and such like. So maybe that's why Novi's not going to come there. So he used to go Makam Tuma. Claire's put a Makam Tuma and hide his face in that tummy place. It says they put a laundry basket over his head. Well, I tell you, ain't Shechina Shayim Makam Tuma. I tell you that Shechina does not dwell in a tummy place. Now it's his chus. He was still embarrassed a little bit. Although see the Tabbalah says, I am Hashem Yoshayo. Hashem said to Yeshaya, say no li kras al-chaz. Go out towards al-chaz tov Yeshaya shubanecha. Who try to shoot your son. El could say talasa breicho el yono. He was telling Yeshaya to go out to Achaz, to the edge of the upper pool, Amsil stay koves, to the pathway of stay koves. So obviously there was disgusting things going on there. So lo tiye kore koves, so now read it koves, which is to the launderer, el kovesh, but rather the person who used to suppress his countenance. Shaya kovesh panav, used to suppress countenance, borech, and flee mimenu from Yeshayo. So he has to used to go to the place where it was kovesh and be kovesh, hide himself, and hope Yeshayo didn't find him. Okay. Pravira nation is Yasser no. Okay, so B'shosha Novi Bolakachko, Novi came to prosecute him, Yabreel Makam Tuma, he'll go to the place, go just put him Makam Tuma, and put his head into a tummy place, so he wouldn't have to listen to the Nebuah. Right, Amem nation is Yasser no B'chor. The reason why I always mention is because this B'chor got killed. My time Vayog Zechrin of Ephraim. So I guess that was out of pity for him, he's numerated among the other kings in pantheon of kings because he had this great tragedy, even though it was a big Russia. His father was a tzaddik, Yosef, and that's why he's enumerated. That's why Menashe lo had tzaddik. Menashe was the son of Chizkiah. His father wasn't a tzaddik. He's not enumerated in the list of kings. His father was a Russia. Ubno Russia, and his son was a Russia. But his father was Achaz, and his son was Menashe.
So it still doesn't make any sense why Achaz is deleted then.
What? Achaz is enumerated.
Why was he included?
No, because his father was tzaddik and his son was a tzaddik. That's coming up. So Menashe lo aviv tzaddik. Menashe, his father wasn't also a tzaddik. So that's what it was. Menashe aviv tzaddik ubno Rasha. But Menashe, his father was Chizkiah, was a tzaddik. His son was, I don't remember who, Yoakim said that it was a Russia. Chizkiah aviv Russia, but no Russia. What?
Whose son? Menashe's?
Yes.
It's a short name.
Yoachin? Not Yoachin?
No, very short name. It lasted for 2 years.
Menashe's son?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it's Ochos again. I don't know. Anywai, so be that as it may, Lamais, his son was a Russia, even though his father was a tzaddik. Chizkiah, of course, he was much higher, much higher, Russia, but no Russia. Which Chizkiah Omer, Hinei Shalom Li, Shalom Marli Mar. For my peace, it was bitter on two sides. Marli Milfonai Me'achos, Achos before me was bitter. Marli Me'achos Menashe after me is bitter. Be that as it may, what Achos is not mentioned, because Achos is mentioned both of Menashe. Because Achaz aviv tzaddik of no tzaddik, he got uplifted on both sides. So Menashe is only picked up on one side. Achaz is picked up on both sides. Okay, and we'll see that which it says yad liyad lo yinakeh ra. Hand to hand will not cleanse of evil, but b'zeret tzaddikim nimlot, the progeny of tzaddikim will be saved. B'zeret tzaddik ein nimlot doesn't say the progeny of tzaddik will be saved. And ksivkat ela b'zeret tzaddikim nimlot. What does it mean? Zer shemutal ben shnei tzaddikim, a progeny which is between two tzaddikim, they are saved, and that is interesting. Achaz, even though doesn't have chiluk olam, he merited special mention of Tanakh because he was the son of a tzaddik and the father of a tzaddik, and obviously there was some train of tzidkus which passed through him, which had some residual positive impact. Okay. What about what's our topic? Dover acher, yad liyad lo yinakeh ra. What does it mean for hand that will not be cleansed of evil? And wants to get immediate gratification, immediate reward. That doesn't work. It says, like the person says, here's the sack, ha'asala, here's the coin, ha'asa'asa, here's the grain, kumkul, go up and measure. In other words, he wants everything to occur right at once. It's not so posh, it doesn't work that way. Not all schus is delivered immediately. The you should know that's true, Sharei Avos Olam, the patriarchs, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, where they want to take the reward for instance in this world, from where there were these schus avos for their kids subsequently. So obviously they didn't get the full reward, and or that we should have schus avos. Moshe says, so Chaydish Bris Yaakov, I remember Bris Yaakov, because that schus still exists. At Echon says schus avos comes. To what point is it still schus avos? Right? Hashem Rabbi Chia Rabba Bar Nachma Rabbi Chitus and Rabbi Chia Rabbi Nachman Amar B'Shem Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Chia Rachel B'Shem Rabbi Bar Zav said Yo Yochas. Till Yochas it was schus avos, because there it says by Yochas Vayichan Hashem Osav Vayichem V'Goymer Hashem had mercy upon them Adata until this time. Those are schus avos came to that time. Schus avos not subsequently. Shua Ma'ado Sheh until the time Moshe the prophet Bataga last evil saw. Because Moshe said, now I reveal its disgusting nature in the eyes of its lovers. V'Yishla said, no will save Am Yodi, they won't save Am from my hands. Who are the Ish who won't save Am from my hands? And Ishal Avram means Avram's schus no longer counts. Like it says, so who is called Ish? Then Ishal Yitzchak, Yitzchak is also called Ish. Like it says, who's this man's going in the field towards us? Then Ishal Yaakov, Yaakov Ishtam. So they're all called Ish, and it says Ish will no longer save us. This means schus avos finished back then. Until Eliyahu Navi, not Eliyahu Navi by the Geula, but Eliyahu Navi by Harakarma. It says Vayibalos Mincha, when the Mincha rose, Vayigash Eliyahu Navi drew nigh. But I said Hashem Lokei Avraham Yitzchak Yisrael Yom Yivadah, let it be known today. Ki Ato Lokim, so that you are God, and Israel Bani Abdecha, and I am your servant. The Goymer, in other words, today is the last day. After they no longer ate schus avos. Rabbi Ramer Adi Chizkiyahu to Chizkiyahu and not Ad Bichlal. Says the Marbeh Misot, he had great office. Yerushalmi indicates there was no end to peace, but it was for. It says the end of the pasuk of Pnei Moshe says Kinat Hashem Tzvakos Tasesos. It was the jealousy of Hashem, which that no longer the schus avos, no longer was any schus avos. Okay. I'm Rabbi Achra says schus avos olam kayemis. There's always schus avos. But we rely on that, of course, Bisman Hazeh. Kerachum at Hashem Lokech v'Goymer ad v'leishkavos b'Yisavasechem Melamed Shabris Kus l'Shvatim. It's not clear if this is a separate issue or not. But besides schus is also bris. Besides the schus avos, which may have stopped, there's a bris, a covenant between us and between the Shvatim and Hashem, and that never ceases. Okay. Rabbi Nachman Shari Rabbi Yitzchak Merkash Bar Yisrael ben Panai. If you see some schus avos, in general, if you see schus avos and shemata, which is falling down, schus motion is motor, and schus motion which is already fallen down, cling to acts of kindness. My time away, because it says, Ki Arim Yamusha, the mountains will be cast aside by Gosioten, and the hills will collapse. Ki Arim Yamusha, the mountains will be cast aside, so it's schus avos. That's the merit of the forefathers. And the hills will be put to a sink. Zuz chusimos. That's where the foremothers. What happens when they're gone? The schus come ve'elach. Nevertheless, subsequently it says, my charity or my kindness for you will not cease. Nor will my covenant stumble. Amam rachmei Hashem. You are merciful when HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, and we will have to stop here for this evening. Okay.